Hello and welcome to the wood shop. This is part one of the desktop organizer. In this part we will be working on stock prep, getting from a rough 2x4 down to length, thickness, and overall smoothness, because let's be honest, look at this thing. It's a little rough around the edges, not what we want out of our final product. So, to start with the tools and equipment I will need, of course, our 2x4 taken from the lumber pile. I'll need a Ryoba saw. I'll be using mostly the cross-cutting teeth. Those are the smaller teeth side. I'll need a plane of any size will do for this. With a relatively small project, even the number 4s more than cover the entire thing, so you do not need a number 5. You're not really gaining any stability or flatness from using the number 5. If you want to go down to a number 3, that would be fine as well. And to keep both my tools in tip-top shape, I have my rag-in-the-can oiler, which is, yes, oily. So, step one, wait, one more thing, almost forgot. Tape measure. Because the first thing I need to do is cut my block to size. I only need 7.5 inches here, which is slightly smaller than my initial model. Don't worry about that, because I wanted to make this slot narrower, so I've reduced by 1/2 inch there. So on here, I'm going to measure out 7.5. Well, do I want to keep from this side or that side? Let's talk about that. Looking at this block, I grabbed it because it was pretty terrible, actually. It's got a bunch of knots in it. There's damage here. There's damage here. There's a whole crack almost all the way through. I'd say that's all the way through. I can see it there. This is not a great scrap, which is why I'm using it, so you don't have to. So I'm definitely going to want to go with this end. And of course, I need my pencil as well. Almost forgot about that. Always bring a pencil with you to the wood shop. So 7.5. Right there. And then we will complete that mark with our combo square. So just set it on up to that mark. It's usually easier if you place your pencil on the mark and slide the square up to it. What happened to my lead? There we go. Fresh lead. The joys of doing it live. Okay. And carry that over to the top side. I can see it there as well. I want to keep the full 7.5. The blade has thickness, so I want to cut on that side of the line. It is not super critical that you make this cut as perfectly accurate as possible. We will talk more in detail of how to get greater accuracy when we go to cut in the slots. But since you have now passed your cutting practice, you should have been equipped with, let me see if I can find it, aha! One of these. The name is a lie. It is not a dovetail guide because I got the 4590 version. This is a magnetic saw guide which will hold the blade steady at a perfect 90-degree angle to our board there. So again, we want crosscut teeth. We want our block nice and steady in the vise. Right there, sticking out beyond the workbench, so we're not going to cut into the workbench as we go. This is quite a lot of racking. If you're concerned about that, get another scrap of 2x4 and place it right there to fill the space. But you know what? This is holding well enough for this rough cut. And we will set our guide right up to the line. so that the saw then holds on that, and move back and forth. Not too much downward pressure because I can easily push this down, but just moving back and forth. Let the saw do the work, and you can see I now have this slot right next to my line, and so I don't misalign with that. I'm going to put that back in the slot, put the magnet back on, and then slide it down, holding into position. Move it back. I'm going to tilt down so that I now cut on the vertical line. And once I've established a triangle from corner to corner, I really don't need this anymore. The wood is going to do all of that work for me. I'm just focusing on a nice light grip here. Moving back and forth. Let the saw do the work. I'm getting close to where this guide is going to get in the way. I'll take that off. That does help to leave that on, as it keeps the top of the blade a little bit stiffer, keeps you from bending too much. Almost there. Beautiful. Okay, and now we can check how good of a job we did with our square. That is pretty good. How about this way? Nice. No gaps. I can see in there. Okay. Good deal. So set those aside. This was our scrap piece. We don't need that. This is what I'm going to continue to work on. But I am done with the cuts for this part. For the remainder of this section, I am going to clean this up with the plane here. So a little bit of oil to get us started. And I'm going to start on the faces, actually. I just want to get this a little bit flatter. I can see from looking at this, there's a slight curvature, it looks like. To me, if I hold the square here, you can see there's a little bit of a gap in the middle. I'm not sure if you can catch that on camera. It's very slight. Which just means I want to take off a little bit more along the edges. I have my bench dog there acting as a plane stop. If I just push straight against that, the board will not move. I need to advance my blade, which is freshly sharpened, until I am getting a cut. So just take a swipe, turn the knob. Take a swipe, turn the knob. I thought we were getting close. Maybe we're not even close. Yeah, we definitely have a ways to go. Okay, we'll give it several more turns then. How's that look? Are we getting there? Don't feel it yet. It's getting warmer. Back that off a little bit. Oh, I heard something. So one more. Hey, there we go. We got something. Okay, now that we are approaching cutting angle, I'm going to extend the blade out 3 more turns. So it's definitely out there. And I have a handy-dandy piece of paper here as a background. Lay the plane down. Look, sight down the sole, check for where the blade is, and it's sticking up much further over here. So we'll just push. That means the blade is crooked this way. I want to turn the blade that way, so I'm going to push the back this way, and at the same time grab the lever cap. So I'm pushing in there, pulling the adjustment lever in the opposite direction, kind of pinching those two together. That gives me a little bit more control there until I can see this corner popping up. And I know you're a much more top-down view. I can't really get the camera line view with and me being able to see it at the same time. But those are much closer to being even now. But that's way too much blade, so we're going to take it back out and spin past the play, get it tight, forward. And now, should be getting close back to where we were. Cutting, but even now, across the plane. Okay, so notice I took off shaving here, I took off shaving there. I did not get anything when I went down the middle. That's how I know this is, in fact, cupped. And middle. Now we're starting to get something. So now it's evening out. So I want to keep the same number of strokes across the board. Keep it flat and level. And that is so much smoother. It's looking so much nicer. I think I'm going to take a little bit off of this edge so I can avoid that dent, but I'm going to take most of my height reduction from this top, hopefully get past that knot, because as you can see, I have a lot to get rid of there. I don't need it to be nearly as tall, but we'll do a few more passes, try to get down through some of that. But again, I'm going to be coming in, planing this edge down past a lot of that. But now it's nice and smooth. I'll say that side is done. Flip it over. Grain seems to be going mostly that way. So we'll go from this end. And we'll do this side now. So left side, barely. Middle, a little bit. Right side, barely. So this has the opposite problem. This is bowed now this way. So I'm going to take a couple extra passes in the middle, then do either side. Middle and the sides. Until I get an even amount everywhere. Okay, that sounded pretty good. It looks pretty good. I'm getting a similar size of shaving from each side, although I still feel, oh, this is the very center of the tree. All the rings are going around, which honestly, looking at how tight those are, this is a nice slow growing pine. It was pretty decent lumber at one point, but that's the very center of the pith, and we do not want that. So I'm actually going to spend another minute or two. We're going to plane down past that. I do not want that showing. That's always going to be rough, loose stuff that is constantly coming out of there. My fingernail, I can pick it out. I don't want that. Okay. Almost there. Whoops. If you are spinning quite a lot around your planing stop, then what you can do is make a larger planing stop. We'll come over to the scrap bin here, grab a little piece of pine. That should be plenty. It just needs to be long enough to reach 2 holes. And pick up a second bench dog. And now we'll just be planing in this direction. Thing to the side. We'll still want to push, don't push here, because that'll round, but in the middle there. Now I can push this side, I can push this side, We're not spinning around and catching anything. Okay, much easier. Got a ways to go there. We could add a little bit more blade. Take off a little thicker shaving. Make this go a little bit faster. Now, I did specify, of course, in the plans that I've beautifully covered up, how thick your project will be, 1.5, which is the default dimensions of the 2x4. It's not actually 2. But that is not critical. You plane until you get this thing flat and smooth as necessary. Now, don't go so much. It's half the size that it once was. But I imagine if I was to get particular with accuracy on this one, I will end up with a much thinner block once I get past the pith there. Okay, if you are having trouble planing your board, number 1, sharpen the iron. Number 2, add a little swipe of oil. This will make the plane glide across, almost no friction whatsoever. A little too easy if you ask me sometimes. Woo. Not lose control. Okay, almost there. This is taking far longer. Really should. Man, my bench is dirty. Good thing I have a brush. Okay. So, how can I make this process less tedious and not take so long? 1, select a better board. Don't pick a board that has the pith in the middle of it. Or if you do, make sure it has it really in the middle, not close to the edge, like that. You won't be here nearly as long as I am. Okay. But honestly, this is where most of the work is going to be. Anyways, if you put in the time right now, get your block set up, get it smooth and square now, it'll make the rest of the project so much easier. I'm almost there. I want a little bit more because I can still feel that divot. Of course, now I've discovered another problem over here. It's all these holes. I have no idea what that is from. Is that a bug infestation or just dry rot? Not sure. But I've gotten through most of that, so we're going to back up to our original super light shaving finishing pass. Just to give it a final glossy, smooth finish, or at least as good as we can get. For now. Okay, let's move on to the ends, because this is where it starts taking shape. I want to keep this end, so let's go ahead and treat it now. Put it vertically in the vise, and after a couple passes, I should have checked my grain direction here. See a slight wave as a result of this knot. Pretty flat. Honestly, we could get away probably going either direction. That one feels pretty smooth, so I'm going to stick with it. So we are now taking full width, full length shaving, almost, across this guy, except for that very edge. But we also want to check that we're going to end up square. So if I hold this up here, see right now we are pretty square to that face. I'm getting real close. This corner is a little bit high. So I'm going to move the plane to that side. So I take off just a little bit more of that side where the high corner was, then we'll go to the middle. And that has helped a little bit. Does not need to be perfect. We are not there yet. This is our practice project. Ooh, what did I do here? I left something in there. Oh no, I made a gouge. I went too fast. A few more passes to get through that. And I've got this strand here because of this nasty corner. Okay, if you start making tracks in your board, either your blade is suddenly crooked and the corner is catching it, but my blade is actually wider than the board, so it's not that. Or you got some dirt, some junk caught in there. Always clean from the back to the front. Give it some oil. But that's pretty good for the bottom. I think it'll be the bottom. I don't know. Do I want the light on the top or the dark on top? I haven't decided. But I definitely want to take this down quite a bit. I'm aiming to make the whole block 2.5 inches tall. So if I set my combo square to 2.5, this is the 32nd side. So why don't we switch to the 16th side? There's just fewer marks. And we'll adjust that to 2.5, a little bit more, right there. Then I will be able to easily determine, once this reaches the bottom there, I am done. We're going to be making a bunch of shavings. So go ahead and advance the blade. Fair bit, nice heavy cuts. Okay, maybe that's too much. Back it off. 1, 2, and get rid of the looseness. Now we're cutting. Okay. A little bit more. I can already see this is looking crooked. So a little more on this side. True it up. Okay, we have a ways to go, so a little bit heavier cut. And I do not want to exhaust myself. So instead of working the arms, use your body. Rock with the hips, heels, and toes. The whole process. The more muscles you can get involved, the better, because that means each one has to do less work by itself. And we still got about another inch to go. If you look at that gap, I want to get below that knot. So we'll just keep going till we're there. Now, you could, of course, cut most of this away. But where's the fun in that? I love using the plane, so I'm going to go all the way through with the plane. And we're going to make a bunch of beautiful, beautiful chips and shavings here. I've reached the very top of that knot. This is where it's going to get a little tricky, because now I have to cut through it. I'm going to keep going back to my oil can. As soon as I feel this getting frictiony, all right, add more oil. I can already feel this is getting warm. We're rubbing a whole lot. Well, we're a third way into the knot. More oil. And it just completely changes how easily this glides across the board. Such an important piece to have, that oiler. Halfway there. Clear the chips. Oh, come on, little guy. Get out of here, you're in the way. I got most of them. There we go. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. Halfway there. How are we doing for square? Ooh. Oh, that's terrible. That's really out of square. This edge is way high. Let's go ahead and fix that now while we're thinking of it. You can try to hold your plane at a different angle. That's tough to do. I would just focus on holding it halfway through, so we're only taking off the high corner, and then slowly work your way over until the plane is centered. Taking off center cuts, and that's a lot better. In fact, I think I just about overdid it. That's okay. Let's go a little bit more on that side. Now center it up. Almost gone. Here's where, now that I'm getting close, I need to make an actual mark so I know when to stop. And actually, I think this is crooked. That looks a lot closer than it does down here. So all the more reason we need to mark this up. We'll talk measuring and marking techniques in the next video when we talk about layout, but for now we can just use our square since we know I need to be to this depth. all the way across. We'll just slide this down with our pencil. So now I know, connect those up, nice and dark. Go down to the pencil line, and we'll be set. Keep that on the outside of the vise so I can see it. And this side is higher than that side, so I'm going to spend a minute planing just this half. Then we'll go across. Need more oil. Okay. One thing is for sure, when this is done, that blade will need resharpening. Getting really close on that end. I'm getting not so much here. I think I am inadvertently pushing harder over there, so I'm going to turn this block around. I'm now fighting against a different grain direction. Doesn't feel like it's cutting as nicely. Yeah, that's definitely not as smooth as it was. But for me, it's a lot easier to start in the middle and shoot off the end than to try to stop halfway and lift up. We'll just work our way back, going about 3/4 now. Here to the end, and a few strokes all the way across. Now I have to look on this side, but that's evened up quite a bit. That looks a lot better. Well, maybe that is pretty smooth. Let's see, let's compare that. We'll do one stroke. Oh my gosh, I really tore out that knot. I just ripped a chunk of wood right out of there. That's okay, I didn't want it there anyways. But that's not nearly as smooth, which tells me, yeah, the other way was definitely the way to go. It's okay. We have now learned something about our block of wood, and that, honestly, is the entire point of this project. Getting close. Sorry for the vertigo. Getting really close here. In fact, I'm going to back up my blade. Start taking finer shavings now. Which will result in a much smoother finish. I can see my line is gone over here. I can still see it over here, so I need to do a little bit more work there. As far as perpendicularness, that's pretty good. I can see this back corner is a little bit high. I'll hit that corner a couple times, and then this half of the board. Well, if there's nothing in my way, there's a chip sticking out of the bottom of your plane. It will ride on the chip and will not cut. So I guess that's the other tip. If you feel like you're not cutting, make sure it's a clean body plane. Really close. In fact, at this point, I would say it is close enough. I just don't want to leave that pencil mark on there. So I'm going to take a few more swipes until all the pencil is gonzo. Maybe I'll make 2 more. Look at birds. Oh, look. Okay, pencil's all gone. Great, we're done. I now have a beautiful, smooth, sharp corners all the way around block of wood that is 2.5 inches tall. It is 1 and it's more like 1 1/4 deep. It's okay. Remember, I was planing down past that pith. And height-wise, 7.5 inches long. So that will do. I kind of like the knot there. It'll have a slot cut into it. Oh, so then it's going to get cut into. It's going to get cut into. I don't think there's any saving it. But I like the look of that. So we're going to stop this part right here. When we come back in the next part, we'll work on measuring and marking and doing all the layout. All of these measurements and indicators you see in the plans, we'll be transferring them to the block itself in preparation for cutting the joints.